Hello everyone and welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'll show you how to recreate the Season 8 styles from the game Fortnite. Before I start with this tutorial, here's a quick disclaimer. There are multiple ways of doing this, maybe better ways than my method, so if you guys want you can improve on it. Also, this method only works with Season 8 Overstyle characters, so don't try it with other skins. With that out of the way, let's get started. For this video, I will be using Core from the Battle Pass as an example. Feel free to use any of the other skins that have this feature. We are going to start off by adding a reference image. To do that, get an image, download it, then go to any of your tabs, select Image Editor and drag your image in that box. Make sure to pin the image so it doesn't change when you select any of the textures. Open up UModel and export the super level or SL textures for your character. To find them, simply type the skin code name, which is division in this case, followed by SL. Now export all the textures. Then go back to your shader menu, press Shift plus A, go to texture and from there select multiple images. Now go to the directory of the textures you just exported. When you reach the destination, those two. Before we continue, let me explain what the FX texture does. FX textures are masks that are color coded, usually used for what its prefix implies. For example, the strength of effect on the red area might be stronger than in the green area, while it doesn't work on the dark area. Anyway, let's start off with the hair. In the in-game version, you can notice there's a purple glow on the skin that gets affected when you move. If you can't see it, here's how it looks like in the default version of the skin. To do that, let's start by moving the normal texture to the back, then add a normal map and an RGB curves node. Connect the dots, select the G on the RGB curves node and flip the dots on the edges. Then connect the dots with the normal map node. Press Shift A and add a layer weight node. Connect normal to normal. Press Shift A again and add in a color ramp node. Flip colors and connect facing to factor. Connect the color to emission. And as you can see here, the effect is still all over the place. So let's increase the blend to 0.78. Head over to emissive over and change it to 1 and change the color to purple. Now we have the effect working. Next, let's do the eyes. For this skin, we are going to export the emission textures for the eyes. To find them, type division head FX on the search bar and you should find it. Export the texture and import the texture. Change the emission color to purple instead of blue. Connect the texture to emissive and increase the emission value to 7. But wait, that's not enough. The pupil is still blue, and the way we can fix this without affecting the whole head is by pressing tab on your keyboard. Select a vertex and press. Go to the materials tab, press the plus icon on the right side, then press assign. Now select the same head texture, then press the number right here. Go back to your shader tab, press Shift A and add a hue saturation node. Now you can change the hue value to 0.7. And now we are done with the head and hair. Let's move on to the body. But before we do that, let's create the gulf effect. Go to the viewport display and add a plane. And now let's add the gulf texture, which should be named df height mask underscore tile underscore L. Export the texture and import it. Press Shift A and add a Veroni texture. Select the node and press and add a value node. Connect it to the scale. Set the scale to 0.8 and increase the X and Y values to 0.1. Now press on the image texture and add the value node again. Connect it to the scale and set the value to 1. Press Shift A and add the color ramp and connect it between the shader and the Voronoi texture. We will use this color ramp to randomize the brightness of the glyph. Now add a mix RGB node and connect those to it. Go back to the values and multiply each by 10, simply by adding an asterisk and typing 10, then hitting enter. Almost forgot, but remember to change the mix to add in this mix RGB node. Now add a separate RGB node. Let's stop for a second here and talk about how a separate RGB node functions. Game developers use textures like this to include more than one mask in one texture, so they save more space. Instead of having 3 different textures, they made one and made it color coded, so every color channel have its own texture. Now press Shift A and add a mix RGB node. Duplicate it 2 times and follow my steps. Now that we are done, press P and select all the nodes we just created except for the principal BSTF, then copy them. Select the character, then select the body texture since we will be using the glyph we just made there. Now paste the nodes and put them aside for now. Press Shift A, go all the way down to layout and select frame. Select all the nodes we just pasted and drag them inside that box. Press N. You can change the color or add a name. Now import the mission texture we exported before. Set the emissive over to 1 and change its color and strength. Now import the SL texture. Press Shift A and add a separate RGB texture. Press Shift A and add the layer weight. Duplicate the normal texture and add a normal map and RGB curve. Go to the RGB curve and invert it. After connecting the nodes, add the color ramp. Then add a mix RGB node, connect it between the emissive and the E texture. Then change the mix to add. Now connect the color ramp to the mix RGB node and set the factor to the max. Now follow this part. Add another mix RGB node and connect the glyph setup that we made earlier. Don't forget to change the mix to add. Oh, and change the chords from generated to UV. Make sure they are both set like that. As you can see here, it affects the whole skin. So to counter that, go to the mask texture, connect the channel to the factor of that mix RGB node and change this. Select the white slider on the color ramp and set the V or value to 2. As you notice here, the glyph effect is very dark on her torso. In order to fix that, add the color ramp and do as follows. Now go back to the top and attach a mix RGB node to the D or diffuse texture. Add a separate RGB node and connect the P or blue channel to the factor. Make sure the image texture is connected to the second one and change the color to black. Add a mix RGB node and connect it to the alpha. Go back to the SL texture we used before and connect the B channel to the mix RGB factor. Now add a color ramp node and connect them together, then select the gradient texture. Press Now do the following. Now go to the color ramp and modify it. Select the black slider on the color ramp and make it gray. Go back to the top where we have our D texture set up and add another max RGB node. Then go back to the SL texture, grab the blue channel and connect it to the factor. Now go back to the bottom where we had our alpha stuff. Press P and duplicate those nodes. Now use the sliders to control the color. Now go back to the emissive and add another mix RGB. Connect the color ramp of the other color and connect the B channel of the SL texture to the factor. Now let's add the cube. To add a cube, go to the viewport tab and press Shift plus A. Head to mesh and from there select cube. Press Alt plus G to make sure the chords meet the origin point of the grid. Then press S and type 0.044. Now move the cube by pressing G plus Z to move it on the Z axis. Double click on R and rotate the cube around a little. Now go back to the main body so we can adjust a few things. Add the color ramp and set the value of the white part to 10. Now select the cube, go to the shader tab and press new to create a new material. Set the base color to black, then add the glyph texture that we used before. Press Add a value node, connect it to the scale and set the value to 4. Press Shift A and add a separate RGB node. Press Shift A again and add a mix RGB node. Duplicate it 2 more times and follow my steps. Now add another mix RGB node. Increase the emissive value to 50. Add a gradient texture and a color ramp. Select the gradient texture and brush and add a value node. On the gradient texture, change linear to spherical. Connect factor and change the color. Now edit those values. Add a mixed shader and connect it after the principal BSDF. Add an emission BSDF node and connect it to the other shader. Now add a layer weight, set the blend to 0.1. Add a color ramp, connect Fresnel to factor and color to factor. Change the emission color and set the emission strength to 50. Select the cube, go to Object Constraints, press here and from there select Child of. Press the eyedrop icon and use it on the armature. Then use spine /5 as the bone. Now we just finished the skin. If you want to create a gold variant, here is the way to do it. First go to the face accessory and pick the gold style on the diffuse texture. Then go to the eye material that we assigned earlier and change the hue and its emission color. Now go up to the diffuse part and set the color to gold. But as you can see here, it doesn't look metallic like the in-game version, so to fix that, head to the specular mask texture and add a mix RGB. Then grab the separate RGB blue channel from the M texture and connect it to the factor. Flip the color and edit those values on your screen. Oh, and don't forget to switch all the purple colors to gold in order for everything to change. And that's all. Thank you again for watching this video, and hopefully I'll see you soon.